my favourite lick.
Okay, I'm waiting. Yeah, beautiful, Richard.
Oh, thank you.
Richard Smith. Now, I'm delighted that you're here and sharing the couch.
Oh,
like
well,
this.
thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Guitar conversation. Yeah, just you know, I'm in Nashville for a couple of days and just inviting a few of the players are here at the Czech convention.
Yeah,
to play a few tunes and chat about your playing and
Sure.
how you got playing and your life in music. Because I remember when I first met you.
I was 11.
Were you 11
I was
years
11.
old? Wow, yeah.
I remember it well. 11 years old.
We were playing at a concert in London because you're originally from England, but you lived in Nashville for a long time now.
Yeah.
And you, there was you and your two brothers.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
And actually, it was quite an interesting cast of guitar players because Borelli Legren was on there.
He was there. He was 17 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Des Disley and Denny Wright.
Yeah.
And Jan Yankee.
Yeah.
And Johnny Van Derrick playing fiddle. We had
Barney Kessel was on
Barney
it.
Kessel was on it. Marion Montgomery, she sang.
Wow, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And what else? Yeah, there was Big Jim Sullivan, of course. It's like London's Big Jim Sullivan to LA's Tommy Tedesco to Nashville's Brent Mason kind of thing. So that was him. And Paco Pena, the great flamenco player. Guy Van Duser was there, and yourself, of course. And Jorge Morel, a whole bunch of people. Yeah,
Wouldn't it be great? That footage is around somewhere, and it hasn't found its way on the internet yet. But
it'd be great to see it up on YouTube.
It would be great to find it.
I'll maybe try and track that down one of these days. I know it's somewhere around for sure.
By the way, I like the new look.
This is. I figured it was more expensive looking, so I just kind of.
It looks good. You've got a whole image going now.
That's it. Yeah, this is it. That's more important. I spend most instead of practicing.
You've done all the practicing. You don't need to do any more of that. Just do the image.
Spend time at Gucci and in clothes.
Yeah, just get the hat now.
That's what it's about.
So I remember you've been 11 years old.
Yeah.
With your brothers and being absolutely blown away by your playing because obviously you were very influenced by Chet and you knew Chet from when you were very young.
About that time.
And then of course, but you also had the Hot Club that being a Django fan as well.
Yeah, it started off just with Chet and Merle Travis because I worked on the albums. It was just at the point where you latch onto something and then you go headlong into that thing. So I went down that path. It was Chet and Merle Travis and then Jerry Reed. And later on I got into Doc Watson, the whole kind of traditional flat picking, a little bit of bluegrass thing, a little bit. And of course Django Reinhardt and some Joe Pass, of course, and yourself. Just what else is going? There's just endless possibilities. You go down one path and you kind of get down that path and you realize, hey, there are a lot of other paths as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens is you go down one path and then you kind of get influenced by various people and hopefully it rubs off on your playing.
And then you have to find a path of your own that you can follow, which you've most certainly done.
I've kind of I've really, I would call, I'm really a finger picker that has got out of control. Like, it's like got a little bit delved into the classical world, delved into some jazz and some hot club, but those finger picking roots are always kind of with me.
So as a kid, in your home, I mean, my father was a jazz musician.
Yeah.
My brother and sister, a little bit older than me, they didn't play music. So it was only really me and my dad that played music. Although my mum was very, very musical as well, knew a lot about music and knew a lot about jazz actually. But for you, there was you and your brothers, And so you
my-
grew up with this. So what do what
Well,
your early memories of this?
It was really my dad to start with. He played before I did, and he showed me the first few, my first chords, my first blues. And that was it, 3 chord blues. It's a great thing. Either you start with classical guitar or you start with the blues. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. But yeah, so he showed me the first things, and then I just started to try and figure stuff out on my own and try and develop my ear, which is important for everybody. I think it's there's a lot of tabs out there, and that's all great. But try and learn how to learn is very important. I think.
You've got to know how the music is constructed,
right?
Not just where you put your fingers.
Right, you got to know what you're supposed to be doing before you try and do it. So yeah, I did that, and my brothers actually started playing a little later on. I think I was about.
Are you the oldest?
No, I'm not. No, I'm actually a middle of the band brothers. I've got another older brother, Mark, but. The ones that were in the trio were my older brother Rob, and he started playing when he was maybe 15 years old, and my younger brother Sam, and he played bass. I mean, it was the obvious thing. It's like, well, there's the bass. You can do that. So yeah, that was great fun. We played for about 6, 7, 8 years over in the UK, and I finally moved to Nashville in 2000. Been doing. Mainly the finger picking, either solo or playing with my wife. She's a cellist, of course, and the Hot Club of Nashville, which has kind of morphed from, 3 Maccaferries and a violin and a bass, and 3 Maccaferries taking solos, one after the other, which can go. It's great fun for the players and for some of the people.
When I was a kid, my dad his friends used to come around the house on a Saturday, and they'd all sit in the front room. In those days, everyone smoked cigarettes. There's sort of this haze of this cloud of cigarette smoke, and they'd put all these Hot Club of France records on, and they'd put like Sweet Georgia Brown on, and there'd be about 14 of them.
Right.
So, and they put Sweet Georgia Brown on, and they listen. Oh yeah, let's play it. So, they start up, one guy playing the melody, and 13 playing rhythm. He used to go on.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. I bet. Yeah.
But I just thought this was so exciting. So
right.
Your house must have been a kind of a similar experience with so much music going on.
I think not so much. I worked individually at the licks that I played. My brothers, we would work. It wasn't just like a house full of music all the time. When we rehearsed, we had specific things that we were working on, and so we weren't really jamming so much. We were really working on arrangements. So it wasn't like like that kind of a thing. It wasn't like a party. Yeah, although actually when I go home now, it's more like that. My mum's there and my dad playing with the guitar, my brother's playing, and so it's more like that now. I go home, but I think when we were working up things. Before that, we'd go up into the studio and we'd figure out arrangements. So it wasn't so much jamming; it was more working on what we were going to be playing. So, and of course, when I first moved here to Nashville, that was when I got involved in a whole bunch of bluegrass jams that used to happen, learning fiddle tunes and learning some of the old time tunes and figuring out what people were doing here. And
I remember when you moved here, and I can remember. Meeting you actually at a party. There was a music party.
I remember it. Yeah,
and meeting you and
Senor Maguire.
And I remember saying to you that I was really pleased that you'd moved here to Nashville because it seemed to me where you needed to be.
It's been great. It's just meeting a lot of different players from a lot of different genres, and I really enjoy it. I mean, doing the Hot Club thing. The one thing I tend to think when I'm out solo, when I'm playing solo, I'm playing the stuff that I know and I'm putting out to the audience, and it's great. Of course, you're getting the audience reaction, but there's nothing like playing in a band and playing with other people where you get ideas from other people. So that's really important to do that for me as well, which is why I've got the solo thing, the duet with Julie, and the Hot Club. But even that, it's like the Hot Club can often be a revolving cast of characters. I've had various players come in, and everyone's got their own set of licks, So, everyone's got their own take on it. Even if even if their influences are from somebody else, they're going for something, and it's everyone's got their own fingerprint, and that's the fun thing about it.
It's really interesting for me to see how Hot Club has taken off in the US.
It's unbelievable. Everywhere, yeah.
When I think, a lot of the work that I did when I was working with Stefan Grappelli was mostly in the 80s, and
it's taken that long.
The music wasn't, even when Stefan was coming over here.
Yeah.
People didn't really. Most people weren't familiar with that music.
No, there were a few of the gypsies, I guess, from those traditions, the Stefan Grappelli fans, but it didn't really catch on. Now you've got mass-produced Macaferries. It's like somebody's got to be buying these for them to keep selling them and making them. Yeah. There's not only tons of
I think a lot of guitar players like to own one, even if they they don't. Right. It's not their kind of music that they played. They like to have one. Yeah, you got to have one.
Yeah, no, it's great, and they're mass producing them, and it's great. And there's not just one company mass producing them, a ton mass producing a ton of luthiers, and they're all selling them. So people are into it, and I think it's the internet again. It's just exploded.
Now you've well, not always, but for a long time now, you've been playing nylon string.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Did you find it?
I like traveling with one axe.
me too.
That's one thing. It works for the classical stuff. It works for the Jerry Reed and the Chet stuff, and it just kind of, just for what I do, it tends to work more for the solo. And this is my model guitar, so I just kind of stuck with this. I've got a Strat and a Telly, and I've got Gibbs. I've got the Stonebridge, of course, the flat top, which is great. I've got a bunch of guitars that I use in the studio, and I'll take electric solos. But generally, when I'm on the road, I travel with this one, or maybe this and one other. And it's just I mean, because most of the things I'm doing are solo acoustic, so it just kind of makes sense to travel just acoustic for solo stuff.
Casting your mind back to when you were a little kid, even before I knew you, when you were a little lad, and you were picking up the guitar, and it's what was the attraction when you did that? What did you love about it? Because obviously it's been a love affair for all guitar players.
I think you can't. It's something that you can't not do. It's like, I have to do that. Let me learn that. Show me that. It was Down South Blues. I remember the song. It was Down South Blues from the Atkins Travis Travelin' Show, which is just a blues change. And that was it. I said, Dad, can you show me how to do that? And so he did, and that was it. That was the first thing. And I started playing. I never put it down. After that was. These are brand new strings. I'm just stretching them in. I just put them on an hour ago. They just weren't doing it for me. So that was it. And I think what gets most people is the groove. If it's a good pocket and it's relaxed, and I think that's really the most important. I think that's what attracts people to want to listen to music. More importantly than anything is the groove and the feel. And so that's something I've been working on more and more and harder just recently, just working on.
I do a lot with my students. Very often we work on time. Sometimes you have players that haven't got the time, kind of wavers and wanders around.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, and what I've tried to explain with this is that it's not up here time, it's physical.
I think it is, yeah.
It's a totally physical thing, because if somebody that doesn't play music will hear music but still move, and even they might not, break into a dance or anything, but it might be something that's very small, from tapping a foot or just moving the body slightly. So I always tell my students, if you want to keep in time, just have some kind of movement, swaying motion or something.
Physical,
it's a physical thing.
It's a physical metronome on your body, some sort of thing that keeps. I think,
and that's how music connects with most people. It is the feel.
If you have to move, if you see someone tapping their foot when you're playing, I guess it means you're probably doing something right. I mean, Sam Bush, one of my favorite musicians, great mandolin player, bob in his head, that's his thing. He gets into that, and that's his metronome. And John Cowan playing bass would do that as well. And it's just if you can keep that time and feel it like
it's
that,
physical.
Yeah.
It's physical.
Yeah.
So I encourage all my students just to get that motion in your body. And for some players, you don't see it. It's something that's going on so internally, you don't actually see it. Other players are more kind of
right, more physical with it. Yeah, but it's somewhere. It's somewhere. Even if you're just moving your shoulders or something, it's.
But when you started playing, what were the things that you found really hard?
Everything. I mean, just everything. Everything's hard to start with. I don't know really. I started playing. Yeah, I was 5 when I started. I mean, I just obviously everyone at some point you want to play fast. So the fast licks, everything clean and fast, and I mean that's a thing that I think everyone goes through, and then I don't know, maybe you slow down and think, let's play some more music instead of more licks. But that was the first thing. So getting to move, I'm still working on it. It's still the hardest thing to play in time and in the pocket, and it's something I'm constantly working on.
But if you started so young at 5, I started playing the same age.
Right.
Is that you grow up with it, so it becomes an extension of yourself, because I did a workshop today, and I was explaining this, that when I was a kid, I had in my little box of toys, I had some cars, I had some trains, I had some toy soldiers and everything. I had some all kinds of things, and I had a ukulele and a guitar in there. I'd play with the train for a while, then I'd get fed up with
and
that.
And a Peerless Martin Taylor model. Then
I'd pick up the guitar. Then,
right.
So it was just a toy for me. So I had no fear of it. It was just very much a part of what I was doing. So was it like that for you?
I guess so.
Did you feel connected with it, like in that kind of way?
It's very difficult to remember. Everything. I guess so. Yeah, it was something that I had fun doing, and just enjoyed it. I think I knew maybe after a couple of years that this is what I want to do, and that because you don't think about making a living when you're 7, 8 years old, but I just knew it's something that I guess my dad and my family said, this is something you might pursue, and I think I always knew what I wanted to do. So this is fun. I want to do this, but there's always a connection with it. It's not just it has to be part of you when you're out there playing. I think it's
Do you get that feeling sometimes when you're playing and everything really connects and you really feel it?
Oh yeah.
I always tell people that I don't even know that I'm playing the guitar at that point.
Right. Yeah.
It just kind of disappears and.
Right. I think that does happen. It doesn't happen every time.
No.
Sometimes it's like, what's happening? I'm having to concentrate on what I'm doing, and at other times it's just coming out, and that's usually after. I always find I play best when I've played 4 or 5 hard gigs on 4 or 5 hard gigs on the trot, and you're on tour, and you're playing hard, and the hinges are totally greased, and all you've been doing for the last 5-6 days is just playing and playing hard, and there's nothing like that, I think, to really get your chops going and going through all of your repertoire. I did a 5-hour gig the other day. I don't often do that. It was a 5-hour gig. I thought, it was just a little local thing that somebody asked me to do. I happened to be available. I said, it was a wallpaper gig. And I don't often do those, but I thought, I'll do this because I could use the run-through of all these old tunes I used to do. So it was 5 hours and a couple of breaks, some bad barbecue during one of the breaks. And it was good, but it to do that once in a while is good, because I don't often run over old tunes that I used to play when I'm at home. I kind of need people to play to me, even if I know I need to work on a tune. So something like that is a perfect opportunity to run through some tunes and have an excuse to be doing it. Most of the time, if I'm working at home, I'm kind of soloing, noodling, working on something new, or doing just trying to work on something new.
Do you practice much?
I'm mainly playing, but I think also when you're in the studio, you're working on new stuff.
Yeah.
So
you've got a studio at your house.
We've got the studio, so you tend to. For me, if I'm working on something new, I'm needing it there and then. And because I've got my own studio, I'm in my own time, so I'll work on something, I'll practice it there, then I'll record it there. So that's kind of the way it goes. I think that happens a lot in the studio as well.
Yeah.
Some people are totally prepared and can go in and nail something straight away because they're very prepared, or they're not quite sure what they want to do yet, so they go in the studio and they figure it out and see how it sounds as you're laying it down. So there's different approaches with that.
Yeah, I've never been really into practicing, but at one time people say how much do you practice, and I'd say I don't practice.
Right.
But of course that wasn't true, because I thought practicing meant you went over your scales and you did all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't really. I should. I know that I would benefit from doing it to a degree, but I generally wait for the gig.
Yeah.
And maybe just warm up. I'll warm up on some things. I remember a mutual friend of ours, Tim Johnson, of course, asked you about that, and you said, I practice in my head, I visualize it, because you've been playing for so long that you know where those notes are. You don't have to do it. You just have to.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to actually have the guitar in my hand.
It's already there
to play. But when I do play, when I sit down and so-called practice, all I'm doing is I'm working on what I'm going to play. Because I never saw the point in playing something
that you won't
practice. I was going to play. what's the point of this?
Did you ever practice scales?
No, I tried because I kept being told I should do it, but
I'm sure there's a good reason to do it. I should, but one of the all-time great jazz guitar players didn't do scales. There you go.
I know them.
I
know all of them. I actually had a taxi driver in London. You know what London taxi drivers can be. They can be sometimes quite opinionated about things. He saw me with the guitar and everything, and he said, "Oh, you play the guitar?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You should hear my brother's son, my brother's boy, the greatest guitar player I've ever heard about. Chords, he knows them all." I think, great.
Chords,
he knows all of them.
All. It's great. Chords, he knows them all. That's great. Yeah.
You can imagine, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great. Somebody told me that Keith Richards invented drop D one time.
All right.
Yeah, I've heard that's one. That's one that's been going round.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
You know Keith Richards? Not personally. He invented drop D. I thought that was great. Yeah. So
I know you do quite a lot of teaching too. We did a workshop together in Florida just a few months ago, and it was great. I love the way that you got everything across, and I think all guitar players, not just beginners, but anyone's just playing, whatever level they're at, always like a bit of advice and any tips. Have you got any top tips?
Top tips.
Richard's top tips.
I would say, whatever you're doing, and I've done this with a lot of people, several things. First of all, try and train your ear. Try not to rely on the tab. Try not to.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Maybe get the tab to show you where you've gone wrong. If there's a song that you're really wanting to learn, try and learn it by ear first. Get the tab later to tell you where you've gone wrong. But I remember seeing a YouTube video. Somebody said, "Oh wow, does anyone have the tab for this?" As one of the comments. And I said, you might try. I just commented to somebody who I've never met, which happens a lot online. But I said, you might try just, you can see the guy doing it and you can hear it.
Yeah.
Just try to figure it out by ear. And the guy said, "Yeah, but I only want to learn this one song." It's like, no, you won't. That's the whole point. You will want to learn another one, and if you train your ear to do it, you'll just get better. You'll pick up things.
I don't know whether it was the same guy, but I had a same experience with my online site, and the guy said to me, he said, "Look, I can see your video of you playing it, and you're talking about it, and I can see it and hear it, but," he said, "can you just put the tab up so that I don't have to watch your videos of you playing it?" You're kind of missing the point. The trouble is when you have tab, is that or actually regular notation too. If you just learn it from that, and all you're just learning where you put your fingers basically.
Right.
But you don't know how the music is constructed. Yeah. So what I teach all my students is real basics about intervals and things, turnarounds and everything.
Right.
And then you can identify them in everything.
Right.
So
when it comes up again, you go, oh,
it
that's this.
comes up again.
Right.
It means if you learn something, it's easier for you to, it's quicker for you to learn it, and it's easier for you to remember it as well. So very often if a guitar player learns by tab or even by notation as well, they learn a piece of music, they get it absolutely perfect, great. Then they move on to another piece of music, and they start at zero again.
Right, starting at zero, yeah.
Whereas if you understand how music is actually made, you can identify all the same things in that piece of music in the next one.
Right.
You're 50% there. You just got to fill in the other 50%.
Just got to keep going. I think that's the thing is, and I do that when you're improvising, you're using things that you've used before. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I know that there are songs that I've learned like that, that I've learned note for note, that I'd learned years ago that I never even thought about the construction of what it was I was doing. I know there's licks that I know that I never use. There's licks that I've played in all those I never think when I'm like taking an improvised solo, because it's not in my bag of licks that I apply to certain songs. So that's something I would like to do myself, is go over some old arrangements and think, oh, that's a great lick, that's a great idea, why don't I use that in my improvising, and just try to have access to it instead of it being back there buried in that one song that I learned note for note years ago. Just kind of learn how to use it and when it's coming up, and learn its purpose and its uses.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think it's really good. There was a kid that I was learning the Gasper.
Oh yeah.
He played that. He did a pretty decent. It's not a tune that I know. It's one I'd like to learn it myself. But he played a nice version of it. He was about 14 years old. He'd been playing for about 5 years, and this was over in Germany. It was a Danish guy. He was about 14 years old. Been playing since he was 9. Doing a pretty reasonable job of this song. I thought, yeah, okay, good. So let's work on that. I asked him what he'd been working on. He showed me that, showed me the music, and I said, well, let's just try and clean up a few things. Let's work on this phrase, that phrase. And we got to the point, I said, well, just play me a D scale. He couldn't play a D scale, but he was playing this song. I said, okay, that's interesting. I said, well, sing me a D scale. Couldn't sing me a D scale, not even in his. Well, sing me a D note, and he came out la la. It was all over the place. So
really,
I was shocked, and I said, okay, we're going to put the guitar down. We're just going to do ear training. I want you to sing me back these, and then pick up the guitar. We'll see if you can find these notes that I'm playing. But he had no ear whatsoever. It wasn't happening. But yet he had technique, and he could see where to put his fingers.
Did he get it after? Did he kind of learn, or did you not follow it through with him?
I didn't go through with the piece after that. But I just thought there was a whole element of his musicianship that was missing, and it was and I was shocked that his teacher hadn't even gone there, and he got this far with that piece and was doing a decent job. So. I think it's good. I mean, it's good to have classical training to learn by the music, but I think it's really important. Just a little bit of improvisational skill is going to go a long way. Even if you're playing songs that you played years ago and you're trying to remember again, it'll be that much easier if you're instead of relying totally on muscle memory, if you've got some sort of reference. So you can hear the note and think, oh yeah, that's going to be there because you got an ear, rather than just relying on muscle memory that may not be there.
I think now that with the internet, which is absolutely wonderful, it's amazing how it's revolutionized everything.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes you can almost you have kind of information overload.
Right.
And when I started to play, you just got they were just LPs. Even cassette hadn't been invented at that time, so you couldn't put something on and even get it back.
Go back
you
a
had
little
to get
way.
Yeah. I mean, I was scratching, and I was
Right.
I was on the decks. Yeah.
right.
trying to find all these things, and it trained my ear.
Yeah.
To figure out what a lot of these things were, and it can make you a little lazy if you say, "Oh, I can just go on the internet and get the tab for that."
I think that's happening a lot. It's really important. I remember going first of all, I think what happens is you learn something. You learn things wrong. I remember things that I'd learned wrong because I'd listen to them later on and think, oh, that's what I learned was wrong. As because instead of playing what the music was, I was playing what I thought it was, which was something I already knew. Some chord that I already knew. Instead of like this chord, it was this or something like that. Yeah. But I wasn't hearing that. I was hearing this because that's something that I was familiar with. So it made me listen harder. And sometimes, okay, what's the difference between this and this? Maybe, okay, and I'll think, where's the note that's coming out? And that cassette would get to that point, I'd stop it. There it is. Okay, and I would actually stop and try to freeze frame that and sing each note and see what it was. So, but that's really having a concentrator. That's ear training. That's not, if you were looking for the shortcut, you'd go straight to the tab and see what it is. But that makes you really learn.
I get all my students to sing and just sing some. So you can even get just a scale and just say, right, now sing. Even if I can't sing, but da 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 da.
It's good enough.
Okay,
for the pitch, yeah.
now go da dee da.
Right.
Dee da dee.
Right.
And just start repeating that. After a while, then you can start putting the two together. Right. So I'm not singing along to my playing, I'm playing along to my singing.
Right, exactly.
And so the music is internal, it comes from you, and then it's being played on here. Otherwise the guitar ends up playing you.
Right, exactly.
You just
you're
play
singing what you play.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. That's it. I like it.
Right.
Your next album.
Maybe, yeah.
In fact, talking to the next album, what's your latest project? What are you up to?
It's going to be half solo and half collaborative. So I'll have I've got 7 solo tunes that are just pure solo fingerstyle guitar. That way, when I'm doing solo gigs, I'm saying, well, that's those 7. But I wanted to do more than just that. I wanted to do some production. So I'll have I've got several originals on there that I want to play with. Have some guests. That hopefully
Give me a call.
That would be
well,
great.
The thing is, you've got a studio at your house. I've got a studio at my house now. We can, even if we're not in the same place, we can still do it.
Back in those days, that was.
I think that was a gig for you. Though.
I think it was. The strange thing. I remember Chet coming over to England to record the Mark Knopfler album, and he sent us a postcard from London. Said, "I'm in town just for one day." He flew over, did a session at Air Studios, flew back the next day. I think it was maybe even Concord. Imagine the expense of that, where he could have just got up and gone to his studio at home and emailed it over today.
And you don't even have to get out of your pajamas.
You don't. No, I often don't.
I know. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen your.
That's right. But back in those days, that's what you do. Physical.
Well, we should do that. We should do a little bit of transatlantic.
I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be great.
Recording sometime. It's been a pleasure to have you here and drop by.
Thank you.
Sit on the couch and
play and talk about old times and pick.
Yeah, it's great. And the hat is, I like it.
I appreciate that. There's another one.
This is you now.
There's another one that it's going to be cinnamon coloured. I found the one.
Oh, right, okay.
See, this started as a white hat idea. It's gone black, but I'm developing the image. This isn't the finish. This isn't the finished image. This is the development.
We're just looking at a work in progress here.
I'll be wearing a meat dress soon enough.
Well, thanks, Richard. Really nice.
Thanks,
and I know that a lot of guitar players watching this are going to really enjoy your words of wisdom and your playing. And talk about playing. Let's play something.
Let's do it.
What should we do?
Let's do the old.
Yeah. do another one.
I got it.
Richard Smith.
Thank you. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah.
Great fun. Thank you.
My pleasure.